What's going on, guys? I'm Tommy Nichols with Team Blue Collar Voice, and we've got another one for you guys. First episode of the Scary, Wild, and Crazy Santa Rosa County series. And today, we've got a good one. Martha Jule Beck, Milton, Florida's very own. You may know her from the Lonely Hearts Killers. But before we get into that, guys, I have to remind you of Santa Rosa County's Historical Society presents the Ghost Walk. It is Friday the 22nd and Saturday the 23rd. $15 for adults, $5 for children 3 to 12, $2 and under are free. But you can skip the line with the $25 VIP pass. If you're interested, call Donnie at 850-377-4263 or Rich at 850-324-2875. And refreshments will be at the end of the tour. This is going to be a lot of fun. Bring the kids and get to learn a little bit about the crazy, spooky history right in your own backyard. With that said, let's get into it. Martha Jule Beck. All right, before we get rolling, I got to give Mr. Richard Wood a big shout out and a thank you for helping me with this one. Who was Martha Beck? Martha Jule Beck was an American serial killer who was part of a murderer duo with Raymond Martinez Fernandez. Together, they were convicted of one murder and had reportedly killed nearly 17 victims between 1947 and 1949. After their trial in 1949, Martha and Raymond came to be known as the Lonely Heart Killers. They acquired the name since they met their victims, usually single women, through Lonely Heart ads in newspapers. And since then, many films and TV shows have been made on these two. Childhood and early life. Martha was born Martha Jule Seabrook on May 6, 1920 in Milton, Florida. She was the youngest child of William Seabrook. William was a weak man who had left his family when Martha was only 10 years old, and she was thus raised by her domineering mother. And her dad would run a newspaper in Milton and then later work for the Gazette. She later claimed in her trial that she had been sexually assaulted by her brother. She also said that when she had told her mom about the incident, her mother admonished her, beat her, and blamed it all on Martha. She also claimed that her mother had started to follow her around after the incident and would chase away any boy who showed the least bit of interest in Martha. As a result, Martha ran away from home in her teenage years. After completing school, she studied nursing and graduated in 1942. However, she found it difficult to get a job since she was overweight. She thus became an undertaker's assistant, which would require her to prepare female bodies for burial. Following this, she quit the job and moved to California. In California, she managed to get a job as a nurse at an army hospital. It is believed she became sexually promiscuous there, even to the extent of having casual sex with random men she met at bus stops. This eventually would result in an unwanted pregnancy. She asked the father of the child to marry her, but it is believed that he refused and would then try to kill himself. Let me read that again. She asked the father of the child to marry her, but it is believed that he refused and then tried to kill himself. Wow. She then would return to Florida and told people that the father of her child was a serviceman whom she had married. She also would buy a wedding ring and showed it off proudly. She later claimed that he was killed in action in the Pacific Campaign. People felt so sorry for her, and her plight was even published in the local newspaper. Following this, Martha got a job at a Pensacola hospital where she also would give birth to her first child, a daughter named Willa Dean. However, she was sacked on May 31st, 1944 for her promiscuous behavior. Soon after the birth of her daughter, she became pregnant again, this time by a Pensacola-based bus driver named Alfred Beck. They got married December 13th, but would divorce 6 months later, following which she would have a son. She was unemployed and single-handedly raising her 2 children. Soon she started reading romance novels and watching romantic films such as Confidential Agent and Gaslight, featuring her favorite actor, Charles Boyer. On February 15, 1946, she joined the Pensacola Hospital for Children. She was promoted to the post of director there. She then got acquainted with Raymond Fernandez in 1947 through an ad that she had placed in the Dean's Family Club for Lonely Hearts. Raymond had apparently responded to the ad. It is also believed by some that an acquaintance of hers had played a prank by advertising in the New York Lonely Hearts Club in her name. So as you can see, this lady had all kind of crazy issues, from childhood all the way to an adult. The murders. Raymond visited Martha and stayed with her for a short time. However, he did not reveal the fact that he had a wife and 4 children in Spain. During this time, she told everyone that they were gearing up for their marriage. Raymond then returned to New York City while she got busy with the wedding preparations in Milton. Soon she was fired from her job. Following this, she went to New York to be with Raymond. Apparently, before that, on January 25, 1948, she had abandoned her children at the Salvation Army. Willa, her daughter, was then adopted and her name was changed to Carmen. Martha initially posed as Raymond's sister for the sake of his reputation. Raymond was a seasoned criminal who had dated other women through Lonely Hearts ads, looting the bank account of one and killing another. However, it is believed that Martha and Raymond had fallen in love with each other. He had then revealed his original ideas of killing women to Martha, and she liked his plans and would join him in the murders. In the following 2 years, Raymond and Martha trapped older women and stole from them. It is reported that they would often convince women that they needed accommodation and then move into their homes. Sometimes Martha would move in and convince the woman that Raymond was her brother who would stay with her for a few days. Raymond would then make the woman fall for him, but mostly avoided getting intimate with them. Sometimes when he got involved in sexual relationships with these women before killing or looting them, Martha would be violently angry. By 1949, they had committed 3 murders, one of whom they had killed with an accidental overdose of sleeping pills. A woman named Janet Fay, age 66, got engaged to Raymond and went to stay with him at his Long Island apartment. When Martha found them in bed together, she would smash Fay's head with a hammer, and Raymond would then strangle her. So these two are absolutely sick, as you can tell, guys. They had started their killing spree in New York, but eventually ended up in Michigan. They went to Byron Center Road in Wyoming Township in Michigan, a suburb of Grand Rapids. There, they stayed with a woman named Delphine Downing, a mother. They eventually ended up killing both Delphine and her 2-year-old child. Apparently, Delphine had become suspicious of the brother and sister duo, and although she allowed them to stay in her home, she would refuse to marry Raymond immediately or to allow him access to her money. Martha started to get jealous of this lady, who was also younger than Raymond. It is said that on February 28, 1949, Delphine had grown agitated. Raymond gave her sleeping pills. Her daughter started to cry, and this angered Martha. Martha would then choke the child, but the child was still alive. Raymond shot Delphine while she was unconscious, and the couple stayed for a few days in Delphine's house. Soon, Martha drowned the child in a basin of water. That's just on another level right there, folks. This is just demonic. How can I don't understand how you could do that to a child. Something so innocent. Disgusting. They then buried the bodies in the basement of the house. The neighbors suspected something was wrong and reported Delphine's disappearance to the police. On March 1st, 1949, Martha and Raymond were arrested. Though they were caught, Michigan had no death penalty back then, and they were extradited to New York to be tried for murder. The trial and executions. Both were found guilty of first-degree murder. In a trial that had become the talk of the town, Raymond confessed to his crimes fast. The duo had initially denied committing the 17 murders that they were accused of, and Raymond even denied his confessions later, saying he had done it to protect Martha. Their trial was covered extensively by the media and was full of detailed accounts of sexual perversity. They were eventually convicted of Janet Fay's murder, which was the sole murder for which they were tried. They were then sentenced to death. On March 8, 1951, they were then executed at Sing Sing Prison in Old Sparky, the electric chair. Martha's last breakfast menu was ham, eggs, and coffee. Her last meal consisted of fried chicken, French fries, and lettuce and tomato salad. Her last statement was, "What does it matter who is to blame? My story is a love story, but only those tortured with love can understand what I mean." Her remains were then sent to Milton, where she remains buried in an unmarked grave. At the time of her death, she was survived by her mother, her former husband Alfred Beck, her children, Carmen, who was 7, and Anthony, who was 6, her brother, and her 3 sisters. Some of the victims. On November 8, 1947, Raymond had poisoned Jane Lucilla Wilson Thompson in La Línea de la Concepción, Spain. February 28, 1948, they tried to kill Esther Henney in Fairfax, Virginia, but she would manage to escape. On August 18th the same year, they poisoned Myrtle Young in Chicago, Illinois. January 3rd, 1949, they killed Janet Fay by striking her with a hammer and by strangling her. They would then bury her in cement. On February 28th that year, they killed Delphine Downing by poisoning. On March 1st that year, they killed Renelle Downing, Delphine's sweet 2-year-old daughter, by drowning her in a basin. The legacy. Many books and movies were based on their crimes. The Honeymoon Killers, a 1970 American crime film, was about the murders they had committed. The 1996 Mexican film Deep Crimson, the 2008 American movie Lonely Hearts, and the 2014 Belgian-French Alléluia were all based on their crimes. So guys, there you have it. Milton, Florida's very own Martha Jule Beck of the Lonely Hearts Killers. Guys, these two were very, very sick in the head. They were demonic, they were disgusting. And their actions are on a whole nother level. How you could do that to a 2-year-old child, something so sweet and so innocent, only the devil himself would understand. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed it. Part 1 of Wild and Scary Santa Rosa County. Part 2 coming soon. Remember, the Ghost Walk, Friday and Saturday. Check it out. You'll have a blast. For Team Blue Collar Voice, I'm Tommy Nichols. Toodles.